Good afternoon to you guys and gals. Welcome to another Blockstar AMA. I'm your host, Trevor Canody. I'm the head of acquisition and project analysis. Today we have on Ember Token, and coming on with us, we have JR and Matt. Zavi is also going to be hosting this with me. How are you guys doing today?
Good, thanks. How about yourself?
Doing fantastic. A little tired, but nothing Red Bull can't fix later on.
There you go.
So guys, how did you get into the blockchain space?
Oh, that's a good question. I guess I'll start off, John or JR, and I'll let you chime in there. So I actually was mining Bitcoin back in 2010. Heard a little bit about it, thought it was really interesting. Poked around with it for a few months, had like a couple $100 worth of Bitcoin mined up, and didn't really touch it for a few years. Came back and was like, oh, sweet, it's worth like $300 because at the time I think it was worth like $3. And so I cashed out and went, bought some kind of computer thing. I don't even remember what. I think it was like a keyboard or something. And didn't touch it for a few more years, and then started trading Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, and all that. About 5-6 years ago on a more regular basis. I'm one of the guys that kicks himself for getting rid of it super early. And then, so that's how I got into crypto as a whole. JR, I'll let you tell your side of it.
Yeah, for sure. So I got in through some friends years ago, never on the business side up until recently in the past year or so. Dabbled around in it with not a lot of money. Turned a few $100 into a few grand and just kind of let it sit there. And then, life happened to start some other companies and kind of like Matt did, let it sit, and came back a few years later. And I think the $50 I had left in there, I came back and it was worth like $800. I had it in, I can't even think of it off the top of my head, but came back and thought, well, let me dabble in here and kind of went away from it again. And then got an opportunity to be a part of a project with Matt. We kind of brought him in and built a team. And unfortunately, that project didn't last long, but it kind of brought us together to build Ember. And that's where the story really begins. So,
well, then let's hop right into it. Then Ember Token. When I first looked at this project, my default is, okay, yeah, you got the website. I go to the white paper first every single time. It's like, okay, here's the meat and potatoes. Here's what the project is actually about. And I mean, your intro alone stood out to me so much because you talk about the recent history in crypto and blockchain that I think a lot of people have gotten into this space, in the last 2-3 years, and they've gone through all of these various phases or fads, and they've been burned by projects. It really, really helped me understand and put me in the right frame of mind to understand what your project is all about. I mean, again, you know the project better than I do. Take it away, gentlemen.
Hey, just before you guys get started there, JR, why don't you give us a little bit of background about you guys and kind of your skill set? I think that'll make a great conduit into the project. Give us a little bit of general information about who you are and your skill set and what you bring to Ember, and then same thing for Matt. And if Crypto Stu, if you on and you want to answer that question as well, I think that'd be great.
Sure. Yeah, happy to kick that off. So I always kind of joke, I've been drawing since I knew how to eat crayons. That's what I always tell people. So, my background is in design and brand strategy. I started my first company when I was about 23. Sold it when I was 28, and it was a big learning experience for me. It was non-crypto related, obviously. Building brands, websites, user experience work, visual design, illustration, so on and so forth. Anything creative, disruptive marketing strategies. Mainly for small businesses at that time. I got some corporate experience and just realized that life wasn't for me. So I'm a bit of a free bird and decided I'm going to start another company. And so I left the company that acquired mine, and I was with them for almost 3 years and started another agency. being more of a freelance agency that time around, less people, and just kind of grew that into a household name for myself. Always built my reputation on referrals, and again, being a consumer of it or an investor of it, if you will, I thought, man, this this space could use a bit of a visual overhaul. It's just like everything I looked into just kind of felt cheap, and it felt like, why aren't there like legit brands? Why aren't there? Where's the user experience? Where's the consumer focus and user centered design practices? And why are so many projects struggling? And I just really had to educate myself, and had an opportunity to come aboard on a project, as I mentioned, and brought Matt in. Matt and I've known each other for, I don't know, probably about 7, 8 years, and have worked together outside of this space for years. I contracted him often for web development, and built a really strong friendship outside of that. So when it came down to really building a team, it came, I beeline to Matt. He's always provided. He's just he does what he says he's going to do, and he's a person of good moral character and moral compass, and the kind of guy you want to be in business with. So it was a no-brainer for me. We'll probably end up getting into it in a little bit, but we did start a project that we got kind of pulled into called Coyote. I know that might ring some ears, and happy to explain why that's brought up and how it brought us here when that time comes. But yeah, that's my background. I build brands. I've done brands you guys have probably consumed before, or at least seen on store shelves, and didn't realize that I did them. I just don't really market that. It's all been word of mouth, and it's been a pretty good career path for me. But I found my passion for the blockchain space, after meeting good people like David and working with Matt and going through what we went through with Coyote. It gave us a chance to kind of refocus, look at our path ahead, and determine, how do we make change here? How do we bring the best of what we can do, and build in proper governance? I think governance is a word that just is lacking in this space. So yeah, I've actually kind of turned off my other businesses to some degree, or at least, siloed them down into certain, offerings, to where I can focus really full time on Ember. And it's really been an awesome journey so far.
Yep. And so I'll dive in there real quick. I've been in software development for about 17 years now. I've done anything from little mom and pop shops, e-commerce websites. I worked at a couple cybersecurity firms and anti-fraud firms for a little bit. I've built web applications that probably a lot of you have used. I was at Turner Broadcasting for a stint, and I built the mobile website for the NBA. So for any basketball fans, that was back in 2010. So I've done a little bit of everything. And like JR said, we've known each other for 7 or 8 years. I've always done freelance projects on the side, and he and I work closely together on a lot of stuff. Always known him to be a really great guy. And so when he reached out and asked, like, hey, do you want to help bring this crypto project to market? I was like, heck yeah, man. So we jumped right in, and for everything that he and I had control over, it all went fantastic. And then, once some other stuff that was outside of our control happened, he and I both had this idea of creating a crypto digital agency, which is what Ember Agency is. And as part of that, we wanted to do a recovery token to help other projects, which is where Ember Token comes in. So yeah, that's the quick elevator pitch as far as our histories together.
Yep, and David, I'll jump in real quick. So I've been on board with JR and Batman from an advisory perspective, getting Ember set up. I come heavy from the economics and kind of overarching, I don't want to say strategy, but from the mechanisms and how to baseline and set up Ember from the tokenomics perspective to be successful long term, to be able to kind of really dive into the multi-level of, I'll say, some really deep from an investor perspective, how to set that up properly. My background, I am IT consulting, service delivery, software delivery, development, and oversight there. And so where I was introduced to JR and Matt, and so it was a pretty natural fit there for their skill sets. And now I'm somewhere right in between there. So I'm happy to be on board, assisting and working with you, David, as well, kind of from an advisory perspective. But I come from a large scale currently work for a very large publicly traded consulting firm currently in the real world. I got into DeFi kind of from the meme space, like everybody, like a lot of people now, but from an overarching investor perspective. So that's where I was really able to learn a lot of the dark side of DeFi, but really that exposed to the mechanics and the technicals of what's actually out there now. So happy to be able to support Matt and JR from building the Ember Agency, as well as the Ember Token, getting that off the ground and in a great spot going forward.
No, that's awesome. You guys come with a lot of built-in skill sets. So I'm going to let Trevor and Zabdi just go ahead and take on over from here and let you guys get right into the project. So thanks for giving us that clear information about your skill sets and what you guys bring to the project. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Absolutely.
All right, so obviously, yeah, I jumped the gun on that, but yeah, that's getting back to the actual project. So obviously, you're focused on people, well, not people necessarily, but projects that have been burned. I mean, again, doing the whole software as a service approach to crypto, I think that's huge right now. I don't think that there are enough projects out there who are properly doing it, which is why I'm so fascinated by your project. If you guys want to take it away.
Sure, Matt. I'll speak to it real quick. So after some of the unfortunate happenings occurred with Coyote, I immediately called Matt and said, "Look, I'm not done in the space, and I'm not going to let this stop us from making change and building good and lighting up some dark alleys in the space." So I said, let's start an agency together, 50-50. He said, let's do it. Obviously, we brought on people that we love to listen to. I say it all the time. The best leaders have the best ears, and they listen. And I knew I've got business mentors in my life that are now on our advisory board. I met Stu through my non-crypto business and as a client, and ended up telling him about Coyote at the time, and that's really where our relationship came in. And when it came down to really problem solving and figuring out how do we get the best of the best, we asked him and his firm to come aboard on our advisory board, and that's turned out really, really well. The thing that I really want to point out that I feel differentiates us, I know that's a big talking point for people, and that's the one thing they look for outside of utility is why should I invest in you? Why should I put my trust and my dollars or my crypto in your project? And I think it's because a lot of coins, a lot of tokens out there, a lot of projects out there, just they lack governance. I go back to that. They lack structure, and we bring an element of governance through an actual registered LLC. And I know David share, with Blockstar, you guys share the same premise. It's business. It doesn't have to be this black hole, back alley, upbringing of a project. If you determine your foundation first and what you want to be and structure it properly and then build around that, that's what we decided to do. That's the best way to do it. And so we said, we're an agency first. We are consultants. That's our background. We do understand tokenomics. We do understand product development, but deep down, there's a lot of service we can provide in the space. And when we started the agency, we immediately were blessed with opportunity on a few projects, and got on retainer, and that created some revenue stream. And so we started planning on our token. It was like, look, we've got the legitimate business. We've been on video. People have seen our faces. They've heard our names. We're not trying to hide under a mask from anything. We're trying to be kind of pioneers of change and positivity and growth. And so, when you look at the agency side, the reason that we're different is because we're not building our success and basing our success off the growth of a token that's going to fluctuate with market conditions and fluctuate with a global economy. We're basing it on what we've known for 15, 20 years, which is serving our clients. And if we can serve our clients the way that we serve our token, it's a win-win, because our foundation of growth is not just hinging on a hopeful product that we believe in and we can kind of hope and market to others to believe in as well. We're basing it on, you know, the sweat of our brow and being able to help build better brands, help build more security, help advise projects better, help recover projects. You know, we're not just going after struggling or failed or rugged or hacked projects. We're going after, you know, new people in the space that are like, hey, we got a great idea, we got a great opportunity, but our marketing sucks, or we don't have anybody that can do what you do, or, you know, we don't want to do a Wix website. You know, we want something that's custom and proprietary and secure that can't be hacked, and that's the change we bring. And so anybody that looks at Ember, they got to understand that we are a business first. You know, we're an agency, we're a structured agency first that has products or a product, and we plan on multiple products. So I think I really want to put that out there. That's really, really important about our ethos, is that, you know, we're not going anywhere. We're not going to hide if things go up or down and fluctuate, because we have metrics. We have metrics in our business model that help support the growth of our. Thanks, David. You know, that helps support the growth of our token. We can get into I'll let Stu kind of speak to the tokenomics piece of that. But it's just important people understand that, you know, we're business people, we are entrepreneurs, and our foundation is built on much more than just, you know, throwing a token out on the marketplace.
Yeah, can I ask a question about that real quick?
Absolutely.
So I've sort of been in the same spot where I've had an idea like you've had, and I come to the point where I need to make a decision about a token or not. And I'm wondering if you are, and it sounds like most of what you're doing is based on your agency and your ability to market your skills to the crypto space in general. Why would you make a token at all? Because I mean, dare I say that it might just be a drain on your time. And we all know that having a community takes a lot of time and is pretty stressful. And you probably know that from, I'm not familiar with what happened with Coyote, but
Sure.
I've been in scenarios such as that, I think. And it's usually a time suck and very stressful. So what's the reason you guys want to make a token at all?
Matt, JR, yeah, let me jump in there.
Sure.
So JR is the brand strategist, creative mind behind everything, right? And I come in on more of the tech side. So when it comes to a lot of the community support, communications, the how-tos, you know, supporting everything, that's really where I come in. And I gotta say, like, you know, even with everything that we went through with the previous project, the community is what really drove JR and myself to take this on as a recovery token. Because when you spend months talking to people and getting to know them in chat, like, they become really close friends, right? They almost become family. Like, I talk to those people in the community more than I talk to some of my own family. Not my wife, thankfully, but some of my extended family. You know, I'm talking to these people in this community way more than I do my my other family members. So you build that really tight bond with them, and, you know, I'm at my computer all day long. You know, my day job, software developer. So even when I'm in the middle of regular work, put it that way, I'm still active in the community all day long, from 8 a.m. until midnight every day. And so, like, I don't see that as a burden or a drain from the community standpoint. Now the token, like, yeah, it's extra work, it's extra effort, right? You've got to build this thing, tons of countless, you know, nights of little to no sleep, like making sure you're doing the right thing and stressing out about, you know, is it going to fail again, or we're going to run into some other kind of issue we just don't know. So yeah, I mean, it's scary, right, to do a token. But I think that's not just a really big reason for the agency side of it to be as a service, but also from the token as a recovery side. And
what does that mean when you say it's a recovery token? What do you mean by that?
So a portion of our taxes, we really scaled down on the marketing and operations side, and we added that into a recovery fund. So a portion of every tax that goes through on a buy or sell goes into a recovery wallet, and that's going to build up over time. And we're going to use that wallet or those funds in some way to help other communities. So the Coyote community is the first one that we're tackling, because obviously that's where we've got the closest ties to. But our goal is not to only focus on that community. We want to help out other good projects, and we'll have a vetting process. But we know what it feels like to be there, and we want to be able to come alongside them and help them if it's a really solid project.
Sure.
And how the
sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, sorry. Let me finish this real quick. So, how the agency and the token kind of tie together, and JR kind of touched on this a little bit, is that by being an agency and offering these services, we're able to do a lot of extra support and work on the token that I think a lot of other tokens can't. Like for instance, a portion of our monthly income for our agency is going to be used to do corporate buybacks of our token,
Right.
which will drive buy pressure. And on top of that, the tokens that the agency purchases is going to go into a NFT rewards pool, which is again distributed to NFT holders or token holders and things like that. So it's a continuous cycle of, even if the token is like kind of staying stable, and even if the market has its ups and downs, the agency is going to be able to constantly help grow the token. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess really quick, if you guys could talk about the inherent value proposition of the token other than the buybacks or helping other communities. Is there
Yeah, I'm going to let Stu speak to this. I just want to add one really quick thing.
Sure.
I think it's important to give you context as to how we arrived here, and I'm going to keep this super, super short, because I think Stu's got a lot that he can provide there as far as context. Coyote just had a failed launch. There was just a lot of series of steps that were made by the founder, and long story short, it crashed. It never even had a chance to get off the ground. And Matt and I combined had over 2,000 hours of unpaid labor building this for 6 straight months. And I mean, I put my business on hold. Long story short, we felt we're just people of good moral compass, I guess, without trying to toot our own horns here. We just believe in doing the right thing, and there's not a lot of that in crypto. And so we said, look, not only do we want to do a token that we could help the Coyote pre-salers recover 75% that was stolen out of that pre-sale and through the hacks that we went through. And if you guys have questions on that, I'm happy to answer later on. But we said, you're talking a big sum, sum of money, and anybody crazy enough to put that kind of time into a project, feel defeated and out of your control, not walk away, but actually turn around, start a brand new company, start a brand new project, new token basically, and then be willing to give away upwards of $750,000 to friends, family, and strangers. It takes a lot of brass, and it's not to brag by any stretch of the matter. We're humble giants is the way we look at it. We know what we're able to do, and we know that it's the right thing to do. So anybody willing to give away that kind of profit over time, it takes a lot of planning. It takes a lot of risk tolerance and risk assessment to make sure that we can see that through. And so we just felt, even though we had no control over the final outcome of Coyote, we had a civil, what we felt to be, me and Matt, a bit of a civil and almost a moral obligation. It's not our problem. It's not our fault. But we said, hey, we're going to help these good people get their money back over time. And once we're done with them, we're going to move on to the next project, because that level of generosity and time involvement into helping other people recover and helping them know that there's other support systems in the space, especially coming from a team that went through what we went through, I think is very much important and very needed. So I just want to put that out there. If you guys have questions on Coyote, and we're not going to get into heavy details here, but happy to provide any other context on what drove the name Ember. And it's basically, as you can imagine, having a spark and an afterglow of Coyote. An Ember is really an afterglow from a fire, right? We had a fire with Coyote. Ember was the afterglow, but that afterglow can definitely spark new opportunities for ourselves and others. So that's really where the branding came from. I just wanted to put that out there. So with that said, I'm gonna let Stu speak.
Yeah, thanks, JR. So obviously, if you can tell from JR and Matt the kind of the pain and all that they went through with the community, I'll be very open and frank. I was also a pre-saler to that failed project, so that's how I got introduced to them. So my biggest job coming into this was helping John and Matt of that how to make people whole long-term concept. And so that's really the structure when you talk about the inherent value of why invest in the Ember token going forward. It's really with the multi layers of exposure to other projects as well as reward structure. That's really what we wanted to build and to make it sustainable long term. And so that was our big goal, and quite frankly, that was the hardest hurdle to get over there. So the quick answer is obviously reflections from all buy sell taxes, fairly standard, of course, across the space. The NFT rewards pool that's going to be funded from the corporate buybacks, as well as a portion coming from the operations on that buy sell tax. And then the long-term exposure to other projects. That's something that's a little bit new in the space. And so that's the conversation for future projects that are supported, recovered, assisted by the Ember Agency. If there is a corporately owned or allotment percentage from those future projects, individuals and Ember holders actually will receive essentially a reflection, but it's a disbursement of those future assisted project funds as well. So it's exposure to other projects as well as a multi-layered of reward structure for existing Ember token holders. So I know that's the very quick answer for value prop for Ember holders.
Yeah, just to add to that, one last thing is there's really the elevator pitch really for it is there's three core areas of rewards for our holders. You get the 4% reflections. We also have our backdraft tax, which amplifies that. I'll let Stu speak to that in a minute. But a 4% reflections from the token. We have 3%. Outside, when we do service revenue, so let's just say hypothetically we do $100,000 in service revenue. We're working with other cryptocurrencies or other tokens, other projects, other things on the blockchain. When we get that service revenue, and 75% of that's going to go into our corporate wallet. That's our operations wallet. 22% goes into the corporate buyback, which is also going to be leveraged for the rewards pool or the reward structure for our NFTs, which we'll get into later. But the last piece of that is 3% of our service revenue is actually going into profit sharing, I guess, lack of a better term. So we're going to share 3% of our service earnings as well. So I call us a hybrid. Like, we're not just rewarding people on our product, we're rewarding them on our service. And then the third branch of rewards is going to come from our NFTs, which I can let Stu speak to as well if you want him to tie into that, or if you want to talk about it later, either way.
Sure. So you're sort of building this larger community of people who connect to a bunch of different profits. I mean, that's where the profit sharing comes in, because you're rewarding people for being part of this entire process. Is that correct?
Yeah, yes. Absolutely. And the larger goal is, instead of having one coin, it has value, goes up, goes down. It's really tying it into being able to build a quote unquote ecosystem of service offerings and rewards and coin interactions there. They all kind of feed themselves. And so that's really where, and then from the broader perspective of how that ties into other communities, and then with buybacks and things like that, that's really the larger goal and the larger view there, to have those mechanisms in place to continue to drive, of course, buy pressure on the chart, which is always awesome. But it's really that circulation of funds within an ecosystem. That's really the long-term driver for stability and also for growth for the entire community.
Sure. Trevor, you got any questions?
I'm going to admit it's been cutting out quite a bit. I know you confirmed that you're getting it all, but I've been getting a lot of cut out.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So I appreciate you guys answering those questions. I'm just trying to think. Is there anything else significant that you guys think we should know about the project?
I would love to touch on the NFT.
Go for it.
I'll say some day one utility and kind of how the rewards, the NFT rewards pool. I know we touch on that a lot, and there's a lot of things going on in the space right now, from whether that's kind of the buybacks, dispersals, things like that. And so from a day one, each NFT will have there will be different levels of the NFT, from a rare, from a standard, rare, ultra rare. And we're working on the math there for how this breaks out. But essentially, each NFT owned or purchased or transferred will have an allocation into the rewards pool. So the rare and super rares, obviously, instead of an allocation of 1, they may have an allocation of 3 or allocation of 5. So then the overarching rewards pool, depending on the rarity of NFTs, will actually have a larger allocation of that rewards pool getting paid out to those NFT holders. So that's really that's one of the largest things that's going to drive the value of NFTs.
Sure.
They may be randomized, they may be self-selected. So that's really going to drive, kind of from day one, some really high rewards possibilities there for those NFT holders. So that's, as this continues to grow, the math is obviously adjusted from the amount that are being created and dispersed, but really from why you want an NFT. Of course, other than the fact that JR's artwork is awesome and I want all of it, being able to have NFTs, that actually goes directly into the amount from that rewards pool that's being dispersed out. So that's really the largest from a utility perspective. And of course, everyone wants to have some rarity aspect of the NFT. So outside of the illustrations, it's really going to be that metadata driving your ownership of the rewards pool allocation is really the biggest there from a financial perspective.
Sure. So a few questions about that. Is there any consideration for making part of the profit sharing just go to the NFT holders to increase the value there?
Yes, so that rewards pool NFT, and that is that split. So it goes into an operational fund, and this is something where I have to control JR from putting too much onto paper before day one, to be very open there. But that is, so that buyback, that corporate buyback, that is what's going to fund that NFT reward pool. So there is that. It's not direct profit sharing, but it is Ember buybacks, which is
profit sharing plus a step, pretty much.
Correct. Yeah. So there's not a direct percentage that's going to be attached to that, but those buybacks then fund that reward pool.
Right. And one last question about the NFTs. You guys are going to list them on Blockstar, I would imagine?
Yes, that's correct. Matt, you want to speak to that?
I think you probably know more than I do at this point, but yeah, we have a really close relationship with Blockstar and David for many reasons. But so yeah, we're going to be using Blockstar NFT area. We're also going to be using the Blockstar Launchpad and some other stuff as well. So I'm super excited to be able to use this new all the stuff that y'all have been building out.
Fantastic. That's good to hear. So at this point, do you guys have anything else you want us to know? Because at this point, we would like to give you guys the last word, and just tell us whatever you want us to take away from this. If there's anything else you want to touch on before that, go for it.
Yeah, just on the NFT real quick, Stu. I just wanted to say that I know a lot of these are just kind of randomly generated, and they're there's a lot of copycats out there. You'll see a bunch of random apes and gorillas all over the place, and you don't know which one's which unless you're looking at a blue verified check mark or whatever next to it. But the uniqueness that I'm trying to bring with our NFTs outside of the utility that Stu spoke to is that instead of doing our entire collection being, done through our own algorithm. I'm doing 100 that are each 100% handmade, and those are going to have the highest rarity. So they're all hand drawn. Some of them take 2 hours, some of them take 12 hours, but that will kind of define their rarity. And so I just want to put that out there, that these aren't all. We are going to have mid tier and level 1, level 2 that are going to be still drawn, but done through an algorithm that Matt's developed to be able to make those as well. And then the last piece is that I'm hoping by Q4 or maybe the first part of next year, we want to offer a custom NFT option on our website, and that's what we're planning on doing, where people can go and say, hey, I want the super rare NFTs that we have for Ember are actually different variations of our logo, and with different textures, themes, colors. We've done grass, we've done a hamburger, we've done all these really cool, like fun, playful, but they're all in the shape of our icon. And so I've teased a few in our Telegram group. So obviously, if anybody wants to take a look at those, you can do that there. But what I think is really cool is that if anybody wanted a custom NFT or their own, whether it's team colors or whether it's something, special to them, that they're eventually going to be able to go to our website and fill out a form and say, this is the rarity that I want. This is the style that I'm looking for. Here's some feedback. You either have full creative freedom, or I want you to design it exactly like this. So people can get something they're not having to just choose from a pool because it stood out to them. They can get something custom made, by an artist that is specifically, hitting their needs. So I just want to put that out there too.
That's very cool. I'm very interested to see what you come out with. I've been looking for, and I've actually helped some friends of mine who are artists put up some NFT art that is all hand done, and it sticks out in such a significant way. I don't know why more people don't do it, because most of this AI and digital art is just sort of repetitive and an eyesore at this point. So
absolutely, for sure.
Yeah, so at this point, I'll give you guys the last word, and then we shall be done.
Yeah,
so you want
John, I got one point just to kind of to circle back with that, because I know you'll want to close it out here.
No rush.
One thing we want, or I got two items here. So from a contractual perspective, obviously a lot of the core thought process and structure has come from this team from projects in the past, because there's not a lot that's really new in DeFi necessarily here. But one thing that we've really been driving the future focused and forward looking technology behind the contract. So I'm not going to spend too much time around the technicals there, but there really is a forward looking view of the structure and mechanics between overarching token contract as well as buy sell contracts. And so Ember as a whole being very forward looking and trying to stay so far away from being viewed as a pump coin or a hype coin. The sell and buy mechanism that are going into this contract are very, very cutting edge and looking really at the future growth and stability of the community as a whole, which is fantastic. And being able to turn it around in a pretty short time period to support this community, put a date and time for launch, which is September 17th at noon Eastern. But then being able to deliver a very, very highly technical, and not just to get a contract out to launch a coin, but the technicals that are going into it are putting us in a really great spot to support long-term growth, stability, security, check all those boxes so we don't have to have a V2, V3, V4 in the first 4 or 5 months of contract launch. And going into that from the community that's currently involved, we opened a private pre-sale. It was really the core community that were very connected. And we were hoping to raise somewhere around $50,000. Me being the realist and the pessimist sometimes that I am, I was going to be shocked if that happened. So we opened up a 5-day private pre-sale, no whitelist, but you had to be in the know to know about it. So it was a semi-private pre-sale, and just under $120,000 were raised in 5 days. So there was no need for additional pre-sale. We have enough funds to support liquidity right off the bat. And actually on Blockstar, it will be listed as a pre-sale, but it will show as a whitelist pre-sale, since we've done all of the allocations and holding the LP outside of Blockstar. So it is going to show up on the Blockstar site as an open pre-sale, but it will be a whitelisted, and obviously everything's already been completed there. So when I'm going to hand it to JR and he's going to talk about the community and all that, the community showing out for a lot of people that have already been burned many times in this space, and the support for what Ember wants to do as a whole. And I say this as an advisor that it's very new in the space, not just for what JR and Batman want to do, but what the community stands for and what they're looking for as well. It's very different for what's currently out there in the space right now, which is awesome to be a part. Happy to be an advisor, so I can say I'm a part of it. So that being said, John, I'll hand it to you there. But that's my 2 cents from pre-sale and community.
That's awesome, Stu. Thank you. I'm happy to close it out, Matt. Before I do that, did you want to say anything else or add anything in?
No, just for anyone interested, come check us out. We're really active on Telegram, and we've got a Discord. And I'd love to have y'all as part of our family.
Absolutely. We do have 2 websites. We have one specifically for our agency. So if you know if there's a project out there that you guys felt like had really good potential, but maybe they didn't know how to market well, or they didn't know how to build their social community, or build that trust piece, or they had bad run-ins with security, or just really lacking advisory and leadership, we're definitely open to getting recommendations and referrals, because those are the ones we want to help. We think we're not the only ones out there, in our opinions, that have good ideas. There's lots of creativity out there on how to make this space better. So we're definitely interested in getting any referrals. If there's projects you saw rise and tank, and we'd love to hear about them. We are going to vet those, as Matt said earlier. We have a great, strong relationship with David and Blackstar, as he mentioned, as well as Interfi, who's actually currently doing our audit at the moment, along with True Audit from David. And so one other thing to point out is that we've been blessed to say that David is actually the one that wrote our contract. That was an awesome opportunity to be able to work with him, and we've been public about that. And given his reputation and the value he's driven in this community, I think it's a great. It positions us for a lot of trust, which is hard to come by, as we all know, in the BSC space. So I just want to give David a huge thank you for being a part of our advisory team, getting us into the Blackstar network, and for the strategic offerings and dealings that we do. It's really been awesome.
Fantastic. Thank you guys very much for coming on.
It was a pleasure. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.